Oh, what a sweet question. Um, let's put it this way. When I went to seminary, um, uh, they had the assumption was always that it would be a woman who would be, so they had a wives fellowship.
Mm.
And my wife went one time, and it was sort of a potluck, and she said it was really comparable to being back in 8th grade, going to a cotillion dance, and the in-group stood around talking to each other, and then the newbies that were there who didn't know what they were doing eventually just sort of found each other, and she said it was one of the most unbelievable evenings of her life, because they laid down a script as to how to not ruin seminary for your husband. And one of the core words to them was this: your husband is here to study. He's a man of God, and he needs to know the Bible, and so don't bug him. Don't interrupt him. He's going to be studying, and of course you're going to be lonely. Of course you're going to want him to take out the trash, but that's not why he's here. He's not here to take away your loneliness, and he's certainly not here to take away your trash. So you have service. Your service is to make this experience on his behalf as good as it can be, and so do your job and don't interrupt him. And my wife is going, I'm all for studying. I know it's going to be hard, but wouldn't there be a living out?
Again, you may wonder why the last time I was with you, I had a blue shirt on and now I don't, and why I looked exhausted at the end of a long day, and now I just look exhausted because I rode my bike to this coffee shop. Who cares? So let me go back to the question. The role of spouses at Mars Hill, I'm assuming that some of what I said earlier with regard to my wife's experience in seminary holds at least a context for why the importance to me of Mars Hill in its relationship with spouses is so very important. The idea that a man or a woman is here to be educated, and that they happen to be married, and that it's somewhat incidental as to whether or not the spouse knows, engages, and grows in the process of the education. Obviously, that's the common model, but at least from our standpoint, what needs to be understood is that this educational process is one in which both partners are deeply involved in the process of becoming like Christ. And because of that, becoming together more mature requires that the things that are disrupting one spouse need to be understood for the other. Things with regard to one's family of origin needs to be thought about with regard to the other. Okay, well, you may have wondered why I went from sideways to right side up. Again, I'm not sure it really matters, other than the technological capacity of the two people doing this combined would not be able to kill a snail. The point hopefully is somewhat clear. The more spouses are engaged, not merely knowing material content, but understanding what is disrupting their spouse, what is inviting their spouse, what about their past, what about their future, what brought the two of you into relationship with one another. All those categories are part of the education. They're not a part of a single course, they're part of the whole broad span of what it means to grow together in the context of this education. So if things can't be lived out between the two of you, if you cannot learn to grieve together, fight together, know what it is to make love in a way that really is a kind of worship, then in some ways I would say the nature of our education has failed at its very core, and that is to experience God in community. And the primary community for the two of you is the two of you. And if that is not coming to be, because education is actually getting in the way of that occurring together, then that's a false understanding of what our education is really about. There was a second question, and the second question is, excuse me for a moment. My role. My role. Well, part is to help continue to shape a view of education that is different than many other academic settings. And as part of the board, as part of the founding group, the essence of how spouses are considered, we consider them to be a central part, and that ethic and that philosophy, I pray, continues through the sinews of the school itself. The idea that a spouse would be welcome without having to pay to be in a class, the vast majority of classes, that's been part of the philosophy that I've been supportive of from the beginning of the school. Beyond that, it's just I admire spouses. I know what my wife went through to financially help me get a Master of Divinity degree, to get a PhD. In some ways, I had the pure pleasure of being in school. She had the hard labor of having a husband who was, in some ways, disengaged from portions of what our life could have been if I weren't in school. So I'm very, very aware and deeply admire and appreciative of what a spouse brings. I think it's an obvious sentence, but without the spouse's engagement, not mere support, but engagement, the education will not be as we would wish. So to invite you in, to want you in, to love for you to be in our classes and to interact with us, I think is one of the prime roles that I have the privilege of playing in terms of being committed to seeing marriages grow as a result of being at Mars Hill, rather than marriages coming to either be stagnant or deeply divide as a result of one growing and the other not. Again, I'm so grateful you're together at this conference, so grateful that you're considering what it means to live well as a marriage at Mars Hill. Thank you.